Hi friends, it's Jess with our Bipolar. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, just a little bit about me. I have bipolar 1 and I was diagnosed 25 years ago when I was a sophomore in college. And today I'm here with my husband, Bryan.
Hey.
Back on the channel after a long hiatus. And we're gonna be talking about our dating story. Now, we have been together a really long time. We have been married 13 years.
Yeah, I think.
13 years.
Yeah, 13.
And we've been together for 16 years. So we're just going to be talking about the time that we were dating, and then maybe we'll do another video about our marriage and all that whole story. So just to start out, we're both going to talk a little bit about kind of where we were when we first met. Now, this was in 2008.
2008, yeah.
2008, and I believe it was in April.
We started talking in April. Yeah, I think that's when communication started.
Yeah, so back then I was 28 years old and I was still working freelance at the time in copy editing, but I had just gotten a job at ASM where I still work as a copy editor. And what were you doing?
Let's see, in 2008 I was 32. I think, I turned 33 when we met. I was 32.
Yeah.
I was managing a wholesale picture frame molding sort of warehouse while I was doing night school, doing classes in the evenings.
And what were you doing night school for?
To get into a bio program at University of Maryland.
For his bachelor's degree.
Yeah, for bachelor's degree, yeah.
So I went to college, right out of high school, but Bryan kind of took time off. And so now he knew what he wanted to do, unlike most of us who went to college right out of high school. So we met. Do you want to tell them how we met?
You mean the chemistry?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Okay. I mean, so we met, I guess that's the online dating service called chemistry.com. They used to run ads during baseball games, and I'm a big baseball fan, big Nationals fan. And they kept running it, and I was, I'd been single for a while, and I actually was feeling weird about, the whole online dating thing, but I just figured I'd try it. It was free. And,
yeah, and back then it did feel kind of weird. I mean, we were in a big city. We both lived outside of DC, and a lot of people did online dating, but it's not like now, like where...
Oh, it's totally normal now.
Yeah, like people have the apps, and like there were no apps.
Yeah.
It was... And for me, so chemistry.com, I got on it because I had been on match.com, and I guess chemistry was like an offshoot of Match. And they asked me if I wanted a free profile. So I was like, sure. So I already had that profile. And then Bryan, you were on like for a free weekend.
Yeah, like some sort of free thing that they were doing. Again, I didn't really think much of it. I thought it was cool. It was called chemistry.com since I was in school for science. And, I just figured I'd give it a shot. So kind of the rest is history. We met on there, but I think I ghosted you for a little while because I was like getting ready. Do you remember? I was getting ready to start because we didn't meet until June, and that was in April. We talked through email for a while.
We talked through email, and then because I was going to be starting this job, I decided to go away. And like I went on vacation and I went and visited my friend Sam in Atlanta, and like I was just sort of, doing some things, and I was not paying that much attention to online dating. But
neither was I. So
but then
fine.
No, it was fine.
I wasn't either.
So then we, once I was starting that job, I was back, and we finally met in person on June 4th, 2008. Yeah. Where did we meet?
We met, you had to find me because I got lost, but we met in DC. So we were supposed to meet somewhere near your work, and I got misplaced.
We were supposed to meet, I think, at the Metro.
At the Metro.
But I don't know, you didn't, he took the Metro in, but then he went somewhere else.
I wasn't, I've lived in that area my whole life, but I didn't really kind of move around DC too much.
And I had chosen, so there's this bar called Lucky Bar, and I chose it because it was right by my work. So I'm like, I'm just making everything convenient for myself. Like, make this poor guy like come all the way into the city. But we found each other, and we went to the bar.
I remember, didn't you think that I had a wallet chain or something?
Oh yeah.
Like, yeah.
This is a big part of the story. So
there was a time where I did have wallet chains, but that was many years before.
So when we met, I probably looked kind of similar to what I look like now.
Yeah,
my hair is
changed.
pretty much the same, and I put on a little weight since then. I was very tiny. But so Bryan had this, and I already knew from his chemistry profile, he had like this spiky hair, and he had
don't even say it, because it wasn't blonde tips. I did not have blonde tips.
Well,
I bleached it like I did all the time, and my hair was always a different color. Bleached it, and it was just growing out. So that's all. So she thought I was like getting it done, like for tips.
Well, I didn't know what you were doing, but he had apparently he had blonde hair that grew out, but it looked like he had blonde tips, and he had like spiky, like he had like product like spiky blonde tips, and I was just like, okay, this isn't the type of guy I usually go for, but he was really nice and like really fun, and I just thought like, hey, why not? I'd been on a lot of online dates, not through chemistry, but through that Match.com. And he also, so he had on like these kind of baggy jeans.
They were cargo pants. And
oh, were they?
Yeah, they were cargo pants.
Okay, I was thinking they were jeans.
I was holding on to an earlier time.
And what looked like a wallet chain. Like there was something that I thought was a chain that was coming out of his pocket. I found out much later that he had a camera, like back when we had digital cameras we would carry around. He would carry this around everywhere, and it had like a loop.
This one was little Casios, because nobody's cell phone either didn't have a camera, or it was basically quality of a potato, like the old flip phones with a terrible camera. So it was like a little mini pocket Casio.
And it had like a little handle, like a little loop that you could put around your wrist or something. Yeah. But I thought it was a wallet chain. But I was still okay with it. I was like, this isn't my usual guy. Because so many of the guys in DC were attorneys and very preppy and very like buttoned up, which is also not my type, but that's just sort of what there was. So we went to Lucky Bar, and we had a great time.
Lucky Bar was good. I remember tater tots. That was.
See, he just remembers like the food.
I remember the food and
and the drinks.
I don't remember specific conversation. I just remember I talked a lot. I remember being really nervous and talking a lot.
Do you remember in the very beginning we tried going upstairs?
Upstairs, yeah. I remember that, yeah.
So we tried going upstairs. This video is going to be like 1,000 hours long.
Sorry.
So we tried going upstairs. There were these really steep steps, and I had been there before. And I was leading the way, and the whole time I'm like, this guy is like staring at my ass the whole time.
Yeah, and I thought as I'm walking up behind her, I'm like, she's gonna think that I'm staring at her, and so I kind of walked up with my head down, like looking at Did I ever tell you that? I was like looking down at the stairs the whole time.
Because we went upstairs and there was nowhere to sit upstairs, so we had to go back down. So I was like, oh, we went up there for nothing, and he's probably like looking at my butt the whole time. But I was like, ugh,
no, I did not
deal with it.
I did not.
But so we had tater tots. And I have this thing where Bryan knows, like back then, I would only go out with guys, like the first date was always, it had to just be like a drink or a coffee or something, not like a full meal. Because, then you might be stuck with someone for a really long time. And if they're really boring or terrible or anything.
I didn't have any rules. I didn't really go out on too many dates.
That's why we went to a bar, but I did allow food. So that's a sign that things were going well if I allowed food to happen. The thing that always like struck me with him is at the end of a date, he was always asking me for the next date right away. Like he wasn't waiting and calling me later or texting me. Like he was like, when can we go out again?
I wonder if I was kind of scared that if I didn't, then just nothing would happen, because I really liked her. I really liked her like kind of right away. But yeah.
Well, I really liked you.
It wasn't a conscious thing, but it was in there. Like there was clearly something telling me to get it set up for the next time.
So I think we did set up. So the second date, I don't know how we met and went together, but anyway, it was like
I don't even remember
lounge
where it was.
in
It was in
DC,
DC.
someplace I'd never been, and his friend, was DJing. But we didn't even really talk to him.
No, I
But
saw
it was
for a
kind of a
second,
weird
maybe.
date, only because like it was loud and we couldn't really
I couldn't really talk.
But
We got a cool
it's
picture
fine.
from it though.
Somebody
came by and took a cool picture.
They did. It was a real photographer, and then Bryan put this picture of us up as his Facebook profile, and I thought that was very inappropriate.
I was new to Facebook. I don't know.
Because we were not dating yet. We weren't together, and he just like puts a picture of me
If
up
they
of
saw
his
the
profile.
picture though, it was a really cool.
It was a cool picture,
It was
and
a
we
cool
still,
picture.
we still put it
yeah.
up and everything. But so at the time, I was just like, who is this guy? And of course, like I found out that he had put it as his profile picture from a friend. Like I didn't even, they're like, Jess, he has you up on his profile picture. I'm like, oh my God, like who is this?
Well, I took it down.
But he kept redeeming himself. So it didn't end up being a problem. Anyway, so moving on, we went, and I'm telling you all of this to get to the point where I told him about me having bipolar. So then after that, we went on a date to a nice restaurant nearby, and he had car trouble, and so he had like a rental, like a really nice rental.
That's all they had. All they had were like big SUVs. It was at the airport. I lived in a place that was close to the airport, and that was the nearest rental car place. And I went, and all they had were, it was some gigantic, some sort of a Jeep or something like that. It was something I would be way too embarrassed to drive any time. But yeah.
So, but that really isn't important. But we went on this date, and I got to get to know him more and talk to him more. And I'm just like, wow, he's just really, what always struck me about you, and even to this day, is just, you're so authentic, and you're so, I know you wouldn't say this, but you appear to be so comfortable just being yourself and being like very open about like, this is who I am, and like, that's it, like that kind of thing. And for someone with bipolar, someone who for many, many years kept that such a secret, it was so freeing to see someone who just appeared like, this is myself, this is me, take it or leave it kind of thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, everybody, by that age, I had kind of become comfortable with like who I was. And you're also very happy-go-lucky. Oh yeah,
and
naturally,
just naturally optimistic, and that kind of a person. So that always really struck me. But so that was the third date. I think the place was called Houston's. It was in Bethesda,
I just remember it was really good.
Near DC. It was really good.
Place.
And then I think it must have been the fourth date when I came to your apartment.
Yeah.
And on that date is when I told him that I have bipolar. So typically I would not tell people that early on, but I could tell like things were going to progress quickly, and I wanted him to know before we were really serious, like really involved. So how did you feel when I told you that I have bipolar?
I mean, I remember being nervous because you said you had something to tell me, and you got me like, I remember where we sat right in front of the TV on the floor, kind of like sitting like legs crossed and stuff. And I couldn't imagine what this was going to be, but I just figured it was going to be something I didn't want to hear, something bad, like, this isn't working out, or, whatever. I had no idea. So, you told me, I remember you telling me.
Do you remember what I said?
Not word for word, but but you were very straightforward with it. You're like, I have, bipolar disorder. I didn't know what it was. I've heard of it, of course. I always, like a lot of people, I thought it was like, oh, really happy, really sad, just kind of like the typical lazy kind of idea about what bipolar is. But I do remember just immediately just wondering if you were okay. Like,
I was gonna say, do you remember what you said?
I think I probably asked you if you're okay.
Yeah, you said, but are you okay? I'm
Yeah.
like, and I was trying to convey, well, yes, I'm okay right now, but there are times that I have symptoms, but I don't know how well
Yeah,
I got that across.
No, I think what I was looking for, like what I was trying to ask is like when I said, "Are you okay?" It's kind of like, do you have like support system? Is this something that you have found ways to manage and stuff? Like, are you okay in that regard? Not like, are you going to be okay forever? Not like that, but just like, is this something that you're working on? Or is it just like, hey, I got this, and it's just what it is, and which I didn't think.
So, and do you remember what I said?
No, but I can remember feeling really reassured after it. It really didn't. I did not miss a beat. It didn't like kind of throw me off at all.
Bryan was undeterred. Like there was no, no stopping.
Okay, I really liked you a lot. Okay, I really. I mean,
well, we really liked each other.
Yeah.
We were like very in it from the beginning. I mean, like I said, there were like little tiny hiccups, but also like for me, and this is not something huge, but for me it was. So with Bryan, I don't know how do I put it?
Oh no, what do you
Bryan
say?
is a very, very nice, polite person. And for me, in the very beginning, it came across as possibly fake. Like maybe this person isn't so nice and they're pretending to be, because I was just like, no one's this nice. Like he's just so nice. How is this possible? And I remember talking to my dad about it, and my dad's a therapist. So I was sort of getting like the dad advice plus the therapist advice. And I was explaining it to him, and he was like, it sounds to me like that's just who he is from everything you've said. And it was funny because that was one thing that was holding me back. And the other thing, which is also relatively unimportant, but could be important, is that Bryan is very picky when it comes to food.
Oh my God.
And he was brought up by someone who is much more picky. So,
yes, it's my mom's fault.
There's a reason.
I love my mom to death, but it's
we
her
love
fault
you,
that
but
I'm picky.
So he is
picky
very, very picky, but we're talking like
it's my fault.
Extremely. But, since we've been together, he has tried a lot more foods, but, still on the picky side. And I was just like, if someone isn't willing to try different foods, I mean, maybe they're not adventurous in life. Like, is this going to be a reflection on his personality? And it truly is not.
No.
And
I tried things. I tried sushi for the first time.
Oh, he's tried a lot of things for me. He's humored
There's usually
me.
a bad reaction to it, but I've tried it. I'm not like a weirdo, like the chicken nuggets have to be shaped like dinosaurs or something like that. Like it's just,
well,
there's certain foods I don't like.
Yeah. But it was something that gave me pause, but it didn't matter, obviously. Someone in the relationship having bipolar could be a much bigger issue. But so we just went on and we just really liked each other and really didn't want to be apart from each other. And at the time, I lived in Silver Spring, Maryland. He lived in Reston, Virginia. And what that means is we were about 30 minutes away from each other by car. And that was hard for us.
Yeah.
I mean, we still spent a lot of time together.
I did most of the driving, but that was okay.
Yes.
That's fine. Like, I was used to driving all over the place there anyway, so.
Yeah, and I'm not too big on driving. But we just didn't want to be apart. And I had never lived with a man before, but, I mean, he had lived with women before. But we...
Like 32 years old,
Yeah. It's okay.
It's going to have happened at some point.
But so we moved in, he moved into my apartment after 6 months.
Was it that soon?
Yes. And I remember thinking I
wow.
wish time would pass more quickly so that it wasn't so soon, because I felt uncomfortable telling people that and now it doesn't matter. But we moved in together after 6 months. Another 6 months later, we bought our first home together. So at that point, it was like a year of even knowing each other. It was April of 2009.
But we knew way before that. I mean,
it didn't. Yeah, for us, it was totally
I know
fine.
Other people they would think that might be weird, but it
didn't feel fast for us, and we just knew. And then we ended up getting engaged. Like another 6 months, a little more than 6 months later.
December 2009, right?
December 2009.
Yeah,
so we had been together for about a year and a half, I guess, when we got engaged.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we got married, and then
now
we had a daughter, and now we're here. But let's talk a little bit about, like, throughout that year and a half, or actually more so, until we got married, did anything happen in terms of bipolar symptoms that kind of like threw you for a loop? Or like, do you remember the first time I had symptoms?
No, I can't remember, like, because I didn't recognize them as symptoms. It's like, you know, you told me I had bipolar, and I really didn't know anything about it. And even still, like, I was slow to really understand what it looked like. I mean, again, I understood when you would explain to me about mania, and depression I understood because I've had depression before. But in terms of, like, you just seemed, and I hate using the word normal when I talk to somebody, but you just seemed pretty regular, and you'd be irritable sometimes. And you know, I didn't know, you know, like I didn't know that was, you know, bipolar manifesting. I didn't realize it. You know, you weren't only irritable when you were having symptoms.
Right.
Sometimes you were just irritable because I can be a lot to deal with, or whatever. But I didn't know. So sometimes.
But weren't there times when I said I am having hypomania, or I am having manic symptoms, anything like that?
Yeah.
Do you remember?
I mean, I don't remember specific times, but I do remember being kind of learning on the go. Like, you would educate me even then about kind of what you needed. Like, you know, when you know, you would let me know, because you really seemed, and you still are, you've always been since I've known you, really in tune with what's going on with your bipolar.
Well, and you have to keep in mind, so I was diagnosed when I was 19. So when I met him, it was almost 10 years.
But you hadn't
after...
been, like you had just recently found the appropriate treatment for you, right?
So
like
I had gone,
yeah,
I had gone through 8 years of, like, really struggling, not being on the right meds, not understanding how to really take care of myself and have the right kind of lifestyle. And then, yeah, it was sort of like everything happened at once. So I got on lithium, which is what I still take now. I met Bryan, and I started that new job about 6 months later. So I had been only on it for 6 months, but I started doing well on lithium right away. And I had this new psychiatrist who had put me on lithium, and he was also teaching me about sleep and about taking care of myself. And before that, I had not been doing that. I had been going out with friends until all hours of the night, going to clubs, going to bars, drinking. I mean, I wasn't a heavy drinker, but I was, you know, I was drinking. And then when I met Bryan, it was also such a relief, because I met someone who, he wanted to be with me no matter if we didn't go anywhere. Like, he didn't care if I had to go to bed early. He didn't care if I didn't drink at all. I mean, he just wanted to be with me, and, like, that was it. So yeah, it hadn't been that long, really.
Yeah.
But I was just doing so much better. I mean, Bryan has never seen me when I was really struggling.
Never. No,
like,
never.
he never saw that part of me. He never saw me. He has never seen me in full-blown mania.
I think, honestly, it's why, since I've known you, it's been, I mean, as far as relationships go, it's been easy for me with you. Like, you know, I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, compared to what one might think it would be. And I know we're fortunate for that, you know, because, you know, you have had times where you're struggling more, but it's never been something that I felt like I couldn't handle. Or
Well, there have been times, like, I remember having depression, and I'm not sure if this was before we were married. There's a time I remember telling you, like, the kind of thing, well, like, I'm so depressed, like, I have a plan, like, after Christmas, I don't want to
that I do
go
remember.
on.
Yeah.
Things like that. For me, depression, I don't go into depression that much, but when I do, it's really the worst because of the feelings of wanting to end my life. He was always very supportive and kind of, like, instinctually knew the right things to say and do. So whenever you were kind of seeing me going through times of symptoms, Like, how did you feel, or what did you do?
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, it's not like when you saying that, I had actually forgotten about that because that was a long spell too. That was like a long time. Like that, it felt
months.
like it felt like a long time.
It was like at least a few months.
I mean, I remember I was definitely scared because I think I was mad at myself a little bit for not recognizing that you could possibly be having those kind of feelings. I mean, you were cranky and irritable and all that, but it was like winter time, and I know that sometimes people can be like like that around the holidays and stuff. But I remember being really scared and like a bit of a helpless feeling, kind of like I didn't want to leave you. I didn't like like when you told me like that thing about having a plan, that was scary. I don't even like thinking about it. I don't like talking about this.
That was hard, and that was before I got on Seroquel too. So I take a really small dose of Seroquel.
I just remember not wanting to leave you, and I was just.
Did you talk to anyone, or was it sort of like just between us?
I think it was just between us. I've always been just not a good habit, like a suffer in silence kind of person. So I usually don't tell other people.
But it was different for me because I had him. And in the past,
we've never really talked this through. I'm realizing.
It's been so long. Yeah. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
But having Bryan was just much different. Like in the past, I had friends that I would kind of confide in, but they didn't live with me. I mean, I had always lived alone, so I always felt really isolated and scared, and like more scared, because there was really no one there to step in. And having Bryan there was, a much better situation. I knew if things got really bad that he would help me. I knew that he would know to call my doctor or like take me to a hospital or whatever the case would be. But that, that never did have to happen. Luckily, I did start, feeling better.
Yeah.
What about times of like hypomania? I know you've never seen me in full blown mania, but like hypomania.
Honestly, like hypomania. Again, it's sometimes I would have to guess that you might be like there was kind of not trigger warnings.
So I didn't tell you.
Like you would eventually, but I'm talking about like before you would let me know. I would notice like it's usually when you can't figure out what you want to say, like you will kind of mess up or lose a word. You lose words. That's like
I do that a lot now.
Well, but back then that was like the early clue, like because you're like you have more words than anybody I know, so like you really do. So and at first, I mean, you did have to point out to me early on that you said something because I think I teased you because you couldn't think of a word, and you kind of like let me know.
And the reason I say now, so I've been on lithium for like 17 years now, and it does hinder your word recall. But back then it was more because I was having bipolar symptoms. I was having hypomania, and a lot of it I think is internal for me. Like I probably don't act as differently outwardly, but a little bit. Like I definitely would start doing things like out of order, like my routine, like I would kind of screw up my routine. I would always maybe like brush my teeth as the last thing I did, and I would do that in a different order, or something would be off, and it would be very obvious to me and uncomfortable because it was sort of like a signal, the very early signal that something was wrong.
Yeah.
But for me, it's a lot of like racing thoughts. It's a lot of everything. It just is moving faster, like higher energy, but also extreme irritability.
Yeah. I mean, again, though, it's always different. Like the layman, anyone who doesn't know you would have had no idea. Like
they just think like you're having a bad day or you're
but even
whatever.
I mean, even your bad days aren't like they're not that bad in terms of the way you act. Like you're a pretty composed person. I'm the one that gets more like reactionary and I get worked up. But you can't let yourself get worked up. So you're really good at not doing that. I have general anxiety disorder. So for me, it can ramp up in terms of what's going on like inside that anxiousness.
And that is one thing, like our like personality, not just personalities, but like your anxiety, my bipolar can sort of play off each other. And I don't have an anxiety disorder, but I do have pretty high anxiety at times. I do have performance anxiety, and that plays a part with my job because I do meetings and I can get very uncomfortable before the meeting. So it's like, I know how you feel, but like we sort of express it differently.
Yeah.
Like he's more outward, like everything is like
Yeah, I'm gonna say how I'm
shown.
feeling. Yeah, I need
and
to say
I'm
how
more
I'm feeling.
inward. And sometimes, you know, if he's very agitated or anxious, that it's like I have to sort of get away. You know, I have to protect myself and my bipolar, but at the same time I want to be like comforting him.
Yeah.
So it's hard.
You do a good job.
Well,
You do.
I don't
You do a good
know. I don't think so. But I mean, I don't know. That's probably, is there anything else you want to say? Just about our dating time?
Dating time. I mean, the dating guy was so short compared to everything else.
It
So.
really wasn't, though, if you think about it, because I mean, if you count until we were actually married, it
Okay,
was
yeah,
probably
from
like
engagement to-
three
yeah.
years
That's true.
until we actually got
No,
married.
I mean, it felt like a whirlwind, and it was awesome, and you know, it was exciting, like many people's dating times are. I don't know.
It
It's
was
nice.
more, I think it's a little more exciting than most.
I don't know. I don't know. It just clicked in the right way.
We just like
and it was
couldn't.
good.
We couldn't be apart, and we've never broken up. We've never, like, I
that's
can't
right.
even imagine not being together after we first like met and got together.
Yeah.
It was like pretty instant.
It's weird. It never happened to me before.
No,
so
it never happened to me.
So yeah, it was.
It was like, this is the person,
nice.
so I want him to know I have bipolar, because if it's a problem for him, I want to know now. Like I don't want to go through some horrible breakup. I want to know up front, and I want him to know up front. So
No, I mean, I'm happy. I was, again, like you had a plan for you were getting treatment, you were working on it. If it was something that you were just kind of like, oh well, whatever happens, that could have been scary. But you weren't like that. I mean, I have my own serious illness that I deal with my spine and stuff. And
we have a video about that.
Yeah.
I'll link in the description.
And so I've really learned how to have a plan, but I'm also very go with the flow. So I trust those that I rely on. So like for me, it was my doctors. I trust them. So when you said that you had a doctor you really trusted and you were doing what you were doing, I felt at ease because I really put a lot of stock into like a good care team, or just like a support system.
And I think that was something. It's not the same thing at all. He has a physical illness. He has a spinal cord tumor that is not cancer, but is something that he lives with, and can cause symptoms pretty often. And so I have this mental illness, and they're not the same, but we just understand each other. We understand that we both have something that we have to really tend to.
Right, and there's so much overlap in it, and I know we already did that in a video years ago, but there's just so much overlap in terms of even symptoms, and so anyways.
It goes to show that you shouldn't even call it mental illness. It's just an illness. We both have illnesses, and the way they manifest is actually, and the way we behave is very similar.
Very similar.
So that's a good video to watch if you want to check it out.
Yeah. Is there anything else though?
I don't think so. I mean, we have a lot more to talk about if we do a video about being married, and we can talk about having our daughter. We have an 8-year-old daughter.
So I don't know for this. I mean, just I would thank chemistry.com, but they are not a company anymore.
They're probably not around.
Thank you for that little span of time you were open and
giving us free profiles.
Thank you for wearing the eye patch in the picture. It was the cutest thing ever. That's what did it. She had this little pirate eye patch on, like from the Pittsburgh Pirates, I'm guessing.
It was. I got it for free at a game. Like when you walk in, they gave it to me.
And I was like, oh my God. I was like, this is very cute.
I'll dig up the picture.
Yeah, I would.
If I can find it.
Oh man. Yeah, I think that's. I mean,
we were both just like being ourselves. We were both to the point where we were like, we're just gonna be ourselves, and if we meet someone who likes it, then cool.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
But like, we were done with the game.
I think we were very comfortable with who we were, and we were just waiting for somebody to accept us as we are.
Yeah, and we did, and here we are.
And now we're stuck together.
Yeah, forever. All right, well, that's enough for today. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.